To fully dismantle Jeffrey Epstein's seamless criminal machine, we must first stand on the causeway crossing the Intracoastal Waterway in Palm Beach, Florida. To the west lies West Palm Beach, a working-class neighborhood lined with apartment buildings, secured by iron bars, fast food joints, pawn shops, and beat-up used cars. To the east, Palm Beach Island, home to the highest density of billionaires in the United States, where sprawling waterfront estates lie hidden behind perfectly manicured hedges and imposing stone walls. One afternoon, in 2001, a highly vulnerable teenager named Carolyn crossed that bridge in a friend's car. Her profile fit the machine's hunting criteria perfectly. Raised in a broken home, living in extreme poverty, a middle school dropout, and a survivor of profound childhood trauma. That day, her friend offered her an irresistible deal. Provide a private service for a wealthy man at the estate across the bridge and walk away with $300 in cash. For a girl living paycheck to paycheck, that sum was life-changing, enough to drown out any instinctive sense of alarm. When Carolyn stepped into the 14,000-square-foot waterfront mansion, she was hit with an overwhelming reality check of extreme wealth. The hallways were lined with fine art. The air was thick with the quiet luxury of old money, and the man standing before her was Jeffrey Epstein, a man with over $577 million in personal assets and near unlimited power at his fingertips. Upstairs, behind closed doors, Epstein waited for her, setting the stage for a dark and irreversible transaction. Underage victims from broken, low-income backgrounds with a history of trauma were the machine's preferred targets. They were vulnerable, easy to control, and if they vanished, their disappearance would barely make a ripple in mainstream media. At the very moment a victim was led into that room, in the next chamber or upstairs in the same house, Epstein's elite guests might be sipping fine wine, negotiating billion-dollar business deals, or debating the Russian conflict. Two events from opposite ends of the moral universe, one the brutal consumption of a young life, the other high-stakes deals shaping global finance and national policy, unfolded in the same physical space, seamlessly, and without a trace of irony. If Epstein had tried to recruit girls himself by approaching them on the street, his machine would have collapsed within days, buried under police reports. Its decades of unimpeded operation relied entirely on its core, highly deceptive operator, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was no ordinary street madam. She was the youngest daughter of the late British media tycoon, Robert Maxwell. After her father's mysterious death in a fall from his yacht and the subsequent collapse of his media empire, Ghislaine lost the vast fortune and elite status she had grown up with. That catastrophic fall from grace and her ravenous hunger to claw her way back into the upper echelons of high society became her core motivation for serving Epstein loyally as his top recruiter. She was old money without cash. He was new money without elite connections. The two fit together like perfectly matched puzzle pieces. When recruiting, Ghislaine cut a disarming figure. She often carried a tiny Yorkshire Terrier in her arms, spoke with a refined London accent, and played the role of a warm, caring older sister to girls from poor backgrounds. She mastered the psychological tactic of normalization, never using violence. Instead, she took the girls to high-end steakhouses, let them shop freely with her credit card, and listened to their struggles to build trust. Once that bond was formed, she would instruct the girls on how to serve Epstein, even demonstrating illicit conduct in front of them to frame the manipulation as a normalized routine. This lavish grooming tactic shattered the girls' fragile moral boundaries, planting the deadly illusion that this was not a violent crime, but a well-paying job that was an open secret in high society. Once the girls were trapped, Ghislaine transformed into a ruthless warden. She oversaw the day-to-day operations of Epstein's properties across the country, from his Manhattan townhouse to his Zorro ranch in New Mexico, and even seized the girls' passports to control their movements and freedom. Worse still, she weaponized their shame against them, repeatedly telling the girls they were ruined, and that if they went to the police, their families and entire community would learn what they had done. Under the socialite's careful manipulation, the girls were stripped not just of their bodily autonomy, but of the will to fight back. They were consumed whole by the machine built on money, power, and deception. Epstein knew Maxwell alone could never scale the operation. So he introduced a highly calculated business incentive into the networking pipeline: a $200 cash referral fee for every individual who brought a new associate to the estate. What followed was a chilling display of systemic manipulation. Those already in the network became recruiters themselves, driven entirely by the promise of cash. The network expanded exponentially, feeding on its own structure. One individual, Courtney Wild, was brought into the fold at a very early stage. Within 2 years, she had fully adapted to the operational rules. Functioning exactly like a network marketer, she brought nearly 80 other young peers into the estate, essentially rising to become a low-level manager on this assembly line. The system's staggering success and absolute secrecy stemmed from how perfectly it weaponized the trust between working-class friends. For a struggling youth, a lucrative offer from a strange, wealthy man would set off every alarm bell. But an exclusive opportunity presented by a friend from the same neighborhood? Their defenses crumbled instantly, with just a $200 payout. Epstein built a self-sustaining, self-expanding framework that required zero direct involvement from him at the top tier. Prosecutors at trial later described the structure as a highly efficient pyramid scheme of manipulation. Epstein could simply sit comfortably in his mansion, watching the network grow automatically as new targets arrived at his door. The machine also adapted flawlessly to different social classes. For older individuals with specific career ambitions, Epstein wielded an even more powerful lure: his ties to Les Wexner, the billionaire founder of Victoria's Secret. He posed as a top-tier talent scout, making promises regarding global runway opportunities. That specific narrative struck at the heart of their professional ambitions, becoming the ultimate tool to secure their absolute compliance. Around 2009, shortly after serving a lenient prison sentence for his past offenses, Epstein set his sights on 20-year-old Karina Shuliak, a dental student from Belarus. Karina came from a stable, middle-class family with a clear career path ahead of her. Epstein initially approached her under the fake name Wesley and deployed the full weight of his elite resources to trap her. When Karina was rejected from Columbia University's College of Dental Medicine, Epstein worked through a middleman to dangle a potential $5 million to $10 million donation to the school. 3 months later, Karina was accepted as an international transfer student. Epstein paid more than $630,000 to cover her full tuition and living expenses. He arranged for a female assistant to enter into a sham same-sex marriage with Karina to secure her a green card, wired tens of thousands of dollars to her parents to buy a luxury apartment in Minsk, and covered the full cost of her mother's life-saving breast cancer treatment. An Ivy League degree, legal status in the US, a secure home for her parents, and her mother's life saved. 4 pillars wove an inescapable web of obligation around Karina. There was no way for her to walk away without losing everything she had gained. Their relationship grew deeply twisted. After his release from prison in 2010, Epstein was abandoned by nearly all of his former associates, but Karina stayed. That loyalty in his isolation earned her an unprecedented level of trust from Epstein. His mansion held only one portrait of a woman, Karina. 2 days before his death, he signed the 1953 trust, naming Karina the primary heir to his estate, including $50 million in cash, multiple luxury properties around the world, and his private islands. Even the final, unauthorized phone call he made from his prison cell the night before he died was to her. Their bond was no longer just that of benefactor and accomplice. It was a warped symbiosis of money, power, and twisted loyalty. Karina was completely corrupted. What began as a naive dental student lured to the US under a false name devolved into the day-to-day operations manager of Epstein's criminal machine. She coordinated private helicopter flights and catering for elite events, and coldly ordered drivers to pick up underage girls from designated apartments on schedule. She once argued with Epstein about the dark reality unfolding behind closed doors, but ultimately struck a dirty bargain. She would stop asking questions about what happened. She surrendered her morals willingly, rising to become a high-level supervisor, scheduling the fates of the same vulnerable girls she once could have been. While his underground pipeline consumed the lives of young women day after day, how did Epstein evade justice for so long on American soil? The answer lies in the vast, shiny, and unshakable protective shell he built in the above-ground world. Between 1998 and 2007, Epstein donated more than $9 million to Harvard University and another $800,000 to MIT. During this time, Epstein, in custom-tailored suits, walked freely through the most exclusive academic salons. He drank with Nobel Prize winners, debated the origins of the universe with Stephen Hawking, and secured membership to the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. He was buying the highest form of intellectual and moral credibility. When he could laugh and talk in the private office of Harvard's president, a beat cop in Florida would think twice before investigating him, knowing the cost of crossing America's elite. But Epstein knew that academic prestige would only make people hesitant to investigate him. To truly make the system fear touching him, he needed something far more ruthless. So he installed military-grade hidden cameras and microphones in every critical space of his properties, in changing rooms, bathrooms, private chambers, even hidden in the eyes of paintings above the bed. Later, FBI raids on Epstein's properties would uncover a staggering cache of evidence: 180,000 compromising photographs and more than 2,000 unedited high-definition videos. He also kept his infamous Little Black Book, which contained the private phone numbers of over 1,000 politicians, billionaires, celebrities, and royals from around the world. His flight logs from his private Boeing 727 detailed exactly when elite guests boarded the plane, and when unnamed victims were flown across state lines and international waters. This nuclear-level blackmail material was his ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. The moment a powerful guest stepped through his doors, they handed over their entire career and reputation to Epstein. They would use every ounce of their influence to keep him out of trouble, to protect themselves. As his hunting network expanded and his guests grew more powerful, Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, located in a busy residential neighborhood, developed a fatal flaw. In 2005, the stepmother of one of his victims noticed disturbing changes in the girl and called the police. Palm Beach police raided the 14,000-square-foot mansion, but the search yielded almost no decisive evidence. Epstein had deep ties inside the police department and had been tipped off well in advance, giving him time to clean the estate completely. Though he escaped prosecution that time, the incident sent a chill through Epstein. He realized that operating in a neighborhood with prying neighbors and regular police patrols would eventually lead to his downfall. so he turned his attention to a property he had bought in 1998 for $7.95 million, Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. In the same year as the police raid, Epstein began a full-scale development of the island to turn it into an impenetrable, lawless fortress. He paid to lay a dedicated undersea cable to the island, delivering both electricity and high-speed fiber optic internet. Over the next few years, the island's main compound was completely renovated and expanded, with a full-time staff of 70 people. After his release from prison in 2009, Epstein moved permanently to the island. The 78-acre island officially became his ultimate safe haven from the law. Little St. James Island was more than just a physical prison in the middle of the ocean. It was a place where heaven and hell violently collided under the bright Caribbean sun. For the elite guests invited to the island, it was the ultimate private playground. A place for world-class snorkeling, vintage wine, and unfiltered illicit indulgence, free from the judgment of the public and the constraints of the law. For the young girls lured to the island, it was a one-way ticket to the abyss. They were ferried in on Epstein's Boeing 727 in groups. The moment their feet touched the island's sand, their passports and cell phones were seized by armed guards, cutting off any chance of calling for help. They were not allowed to use the front doors of the compound, instead being led through dark service tunnels into their rooms, where Victoria's Secret bikinis were laid out neatly on the bed. They were treated like captive prey, waiting in terror for a summons over the intercom. The paradise of the powerful and the hell of the vulnerable finally collided in the luxury private chambers, lined with hidden cameras. This island of evil was just the physical entrance to Epstein's vast labyrinth of power and profit. Once we understand the structure of Epstein's island of terror, an even more chilling question remains. Do you really think these princes, politicians, and Wall Street tycoons flew all the way there just to satisfy their personal desires? In our next episode, we dive deeper